oh my god, GPT-5 is here. OpenAI just released it today and it's gonna change the world. In fact, its general intelligence, AGI, has arrived. I think it might even be super intelligence. Ugh. Yeah, not really. Not at all. Let's break it down. So I wake up to my news in the morning, and this is an AI researcher who I admire and I follow on Twitter, and he's talking about this screenshot from the GPT-5 live stream. And that makes no sense at all. The worst chart crimes of the century. Now, to their credit, they did fix it on the website. This is OpenAI's GPT-5 release. So they did fix that really pretty egregious graph. Let's take a look at it again. 52. But so the scale is totally off to make it look like GPT-5 is way overperforming, even with thinking, it's only about 5 percentage points over O3, their previous model. Definitely more sensible in this view. I'm glad they fixed it. And this page has a lot of other information as well. But, another reliable character to look at on this journey is Gary Marcus. Gary Marcus has been talking about AI hitting a wall for years now. He's literally coined that phrase. And he's obviously having a field day today because GPT-5 is released, and in a lot of ways it seems very similar to Grok 4 and maybe the latest models. This is what Sam Altman is saying. GPT-5 is the smartest model we've ever done. I want to just highlight that, smartest. So this is the smartest they've done, guys. And then they pushed for real-world utility and accessibility, affordability. That's cool. I mean, they were going to unify their product and make it more accessible. But I want to dig into the smartest here because let's look. I mean, at this point, we've all seen AI make mistakes like this, right? Can't do simple things, can't do simple math, and that seems to be an issue. But, in general, the vibe is still strong, or the vibe may be waning a little bit depending on who you're looking at in Twitter. With GPT-5, this person is saying the tech they're unveiling should feel magical, really breakthroughs, but the whole vibe was grayscale grief. The charts, everybody messed up. Everybody was criticizing the charts. But how is this portrayed in the media? This is like NBC News, right? So this is pretty far away from tech. This is like mainstream. And according to OpenAI, just today, all of us, everyone here, we all have a team of PhD level experts in our pocket. And this goes back to what Sam was saying about this being the smartest model that they have. And there's a lot of problems with AI. You can look at AI in terms of where they got the training data. You can look at the fear mongering when they kind of say it's going to take our jobs, which echoes like, immigrants are going to take our jobs. All of that, many people have written about the problems with AI. Here, I'll just focus on the technical problem in AI and why GPT-5 is missing something huge that it just can't ever have. And that thing is effectively learning. GPT-5 is generative pre-trained transformer. The P means it's been pre-trained. That's why, in fact, it took them so long to release GPT-5. Do you all quickly remember this? Like this wonderful GPT-5 circles. GPT-425. Right, you remember this kind of it made the rounds a while back. Images like this, they were everywhere. Gosh, there's so much AI slop now. They were everywhere. Well, this is it. This is why they release larger and larger models. Why it took OpenAI a long time to release GPT-5, because they had to pre-train it, and that's the P in GPT. And at this point, just like Grok, and actually Grok and GPT-5 are at the same level of sophistication and the same exposure to training data. And that's just it. They've been exposed to all of the data we have on the internet. Basically, all of the data we have on the internet, all of the data in Google Books, all of the data that we can put into a computer, they have access to. So this is it, really. Performance is not going to get better, and kind of that's the tepid response you see. But even aside from that problem, and aside from where they got that data and the ethics of that, the real problem remains that GPT and Grok and LLM technologies are not learning. They are not learning in real time. They're not learning when you use them. They're not learning, period. They've just been trained. So that presents a number of problems. And let's look at something here to kind of give some light into this, where this is Dwarkesh Patel. He's quite an incredible up-and-coming new podcaster. I wouldn't say up-and-coming anymore. He's really been setting the bar. And he's had the privilege of interviewing basically everyone in AI and AGI. He's even talked to the people behind AI 2027, the extremely hypey kind of fear-mongering situation around AI. And like, what if AI takes over the world? So he's talked through the gamut of AI people. I would love to talk to him one day as well, because in this video here, he's talking about continual learning. And let's give it a listen. Let's hear what he has to say.
Eventually, the models will be able to learn on the job in this organic way that humans can. But it's just hard for me to see how that could happen within the next few years, given there's no immediately obvious way in which to slot in continuous learning into the kinds of models that these LLMs are. LLMs actually do get kind of smart and useful in the middle of a session. For example, sometimes I'll co-write an essay with an LLM. I'll give them an outline and I'll ask it to draft the essay passage by passage.
And he goes on to describe his experience with AI a bit more detail, but what he said here...
Useful in the middle of a session. For example, sometimes can. But it's just hard for me to see how that could happen within the next few years, given there's no immediately obvious way in which to slot in continuous learning into the kinds of models that these LLMs are.
Emphasis on that point, because Dwarkesh has talked to literally everyone in AI that's doing LLMs, and all of these research groups that he's talked to, people from Meta, people from OpenAI, people from the Grok team, none of them have an idea of how to introduce learning, continuous learning into large language models. And he says, given the kinds of models these LLMs are, it's because they've been massively pre-trained. Well, this presents a number of problems, because if you look at what our favorite hype person, Sam Altman, is saying again, OpenAI releasing GPT-5, calling it a team of PhD level experts in your pocket. Yeah, if they had like a severe, profound learning disability, and by that I mean no learning at all, they wouldn't be able to learn from each other as a team of PhDs. They wouldn't be able to learn from the subject matter as they research it more. They wouldn't be able to learn from your feedback as a supervisor, kind of the same way Dwarkesh described. You wouldn't be able to even fix their mistakes. And actually, that's the essence of the hallucination problem. The hallucination problem, which we've all encountered, whether it's this silly mistake of AI not being able to subtract, or messing up anything else, like in terms of really mismatching with any truth. Sure, we all make mistakes, but why can't you even correct the AI's truth? In other words, why can't it learn? There's a lot of reasons why the AI industry has not been able to tackle this issue. We have the privilege at AO Labs with really very special investors and a team that's really focused to drill into this particular problem where everybody else has ignored it. And I can talk about that opportunity at a later date. But I just want to kind of like try to digest all of this, because what does AI mean if it can't learn, if it makes mistakes like this? I mean, Gary Marcus was kind of on the money here when he made this funny post. He says, "Enjoy the rest of your summer, and someone please text me if GPT-5 solves hallucinations." And yeah, hallucinations are fundamentally tied to learning. In fact, think to yourself. Think to yourself. If you are general intelligence as a human, how did you learn words? How did you learn the meaning behind words? There were experiences that were pre-verbal that led up to you having words. So then, it's like when you're a kid, right? You're interacting with the world, and then you learn the words, and then you learn more words on top. And in fact, learning is that ascending combination of complexity that we experience and grow. But the key thing there is that there's a direction to it. So you ask yourself now, if you have a GPT PhD level expert, and that PhD level expert, and I agree. I use GPT as an information tool. It's definitely a good information retrieval tool. It's not a PhD level expert because it's not even able to learn or really reflect on what it has, so I can confirm its truth. And how can it be a PhD level expert but not know how to learn? Like, did it kind of like is it operating with a fixed PhD level intelligence now that it no longer can learn? What does that imply for what it understands as a PhD level intelligence? All of this is at the essence of the hallucination problem and AI's current limitations. So, I spent some time, again, I'll break this down in another video, how we're specifically tackling this at AO Labs. And just to touch on that, we're building completely outside of large language models. We're not based on the LLM or deep learning stack. So if these topics are interesting to you, and if you have been skeptical of the AI hype and GPT-5 and all of that stuff, we have a method and a set of tools to build a new type of AI that can learn like we do. An AI that can learn continuously, so it can actually develop its own understanding that we can rely on and trust. But let's just digest this GPT-5 release today, right? So, I did some more thinking, and I kind of want to close up this journey here, this video, with just a few more thoughts, because I went to the source of it. I went to Wikipedia. I know, kind of like OG. I suppose these days you'd go to a large language model. And I read all about Sam Altman. And then, digging into the history of AI, with Sam Altman today being the... Oh my God, makes me almost vomit to say that, but with him being the champion of AI, it's worth it to look at kind of the history of this. So I looked a bit deeper, and you find characters like I.J. Good, a researcher who was contemporaneous with Alan Turing, and in fact he worked with Mr. Turing. And he was the originator of the concept known as the intelligence explosion. And this is back in, well, let's actually read the quote. Right here. In 1965, he originated the concept known now as an intelligence explosion or singularity. And you can read it, it's very cool, and in some ways it explains why Sam Altman is the way he is. But I think what's been happening since 1965 and 2025, what is that now, 60 years? Is that 60 years? We kind of have something like this happening, where this is another character that is worth remembering in this context. There was definitely a lot of hype around crypto, as worthwhile as the technology can be. And again, I work in AI. I use LLM tools myself. We actually use LLM tools for part of the packaging around our products to kind of extract input, and we can learn from that input. But sometimes the hype exceeds the reality. So I kind of like, obviously this is very old school, using Wikipedia. It doesn't make any sense. I'm kind of being like a boomer. So I went to Grok, and I asked Grok, like, can you help me digest this? Can we get a full look at all of this? And Grok is, like I said, this is Grok 3, because I'm not going to pay for bullshit. But it's still good. We can compare it to Grok 5 or 4 or whatever in a bit. But I just was trying to get a sense of this, and it wanted me to confirm. I suppose they added this because usually people were generating images too fast and burning through credits, or burning through compute. I confirmed, and then it. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, given that Grok is supposed to be less woke. That's just hilarious. Well, then I went to the source of it, right? I went to OpenAI itself, and I think that's good, but I think somehow it got biased with the first image. So I think now I kind of understand things. I think now I kind of understand things. Please, don't buy the hype, or at least take it with a measure of salt. And as I suggested to you, if we're trying to build intelligence, we're the measure of intelligence as humans. That's what these benchmarks and everything are, the ones I could look through on OpenAI's website, and I'm not going to do that because, sure, they're getting better at the benchmarks. That doesn't mean it'll be useful for you because it still can't learn from you, and it still can't learn what you like, and it still can't learn at all. So all of this benchmark hacking that goes on, all of this fear-mongering around AI hype and everything, just be aware, be cautious, and enjoy the ride. I hope that was helpful and gave you some insights. If you are curious about what I mean specifically with learning, I'll link to the Dwarkesh video. He actually introduces that concept really well, even though it's such a new concept to the AI scene that they don't know what to do about continuous learning. Again, like Dwarkesh said, it's not obvious how to introduce it. So I'll share Dwarkesh's podcast. If you're curious, also drop by our AO Labs website, read through our docs, but really if you want to dig deep and get started with working on something, join our Discord and just talk to us. We're building outside of the status quo for these reasons that I touched on in this video. And there's a lot to build. Real intelligence, real questions to answer, instead of just trying to kind of build like this godlike AI that... Yes, thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your summer. Oh, another thing I'll share in the description for the real geeks that want to dig in. You might ask yourself, or you might be asking yourself at this point, like, with all of the money and everything that OpenAI and other companies have, how could they have missed the mark on learning? Or how could GPT-5 and other tools still be this limited, even if it's not just learning? Like, what's going on? One of the really seminal pieces of writing that'll help put that in context is called The Bitter Lesson, a short essay by researcher Richard Sutton. If you give it a read and you put it in context of when it was written and how it influenced a lot of AI researchers, you'll see why there was like this gravitation towards just scale, build more compute, add more data, and hope that it gets smarter. And in some sense also hope that learning emerges, or that agency emerges, or superintelligence emerges, right? Which is all... It's not how it works in biology. It's not how it works in evolution. So the bitter lesson is interesting to kind of place that in context and explain why. We should be releasing more content around this at AO Labs, and I think we will. But please also let me know in the comments or anywhere if you touch base with us what other content you'd like to see. Thank you.